Okay, it's gone 10 o'clock. I think, can we kick off? Ready, Eamon? Yeah. Okay, well, good morning, colleagues. Can I first of all welcome you here this morning, and I guess apologies for having to drag people along here this morning. Can I thank everybody for what they're doing, and certainly for obeying social distancing. I'm pleased to see people sitting dotted about the chamber, not too close to each other. I think it's obviously very important we follow all that guidance, so thank you for your forbearance. We have a one-item meeting this morning. Can I just remind people that it is being recorded, and I do have the ability to cease filming if anybody misbehaves, but I can't imagine any of you would, given that what we're here to discuss. So the paper, I think, is quite straightforward, but I would wish at this stage to pass to the Chief Executive just to give a little bit more of the flesh on the bones of it.
Thank you, Provost. The paper in front of you this morning asks for approval for a number of very important matters. I want to ensure that all councillors and residents fully understand the background to this paper and the importance of putting agreements in place which will allow the Council to act quickly to protect the health of our residents. Under civil contingencies legislation, the Council is a Category 1 responder, which means we have particular responsibilities in an emergency situation. All our staff take these responsibilities very seriously, and we prepare and train for eventualities such as this. We always hope that our plans will not be needed. We operate many services which are essential, especially so in these circumstances. We must ensure that they can operate and support the work of the NHS and other public sector bodies. Our care at home service, our registrar service, our cemeteries, our homeless services, road gritting and refuse collection are just a few of the services that must continue. There are also new services that we have been asked to deliver by the Government. Many poor people will need support to live at home and to self-isolate. We need to do everything within our power to support the fantastic work of the NHS. And there are a range of grants and financial measures to support the most vulnerable in our society that we need to deliver. Our schools need to stay open for the children of workers in priority groups. We are doing this at a time when our own staff have been affected by the impact of the virus and cannot be at their normal workplace. Some have family members with the virus and are in self-isolation. Others have medical conditions, which means they are safest staying at home. As the weeks go on, the numbers will increase. Many of our services have already been severely impacted by this. However, our staff have literally been working round the clock to continue to deliver essential services and plan for the next few weeks. I worry about them all, as by the end of last week, many looked exhausted. Staff who are working at home and who are self-isolating at home are working at home wherever possible and playing their part. I have been amazed by the number of staff who've already volunteered to help wherever they can and to take on different roles. Our values of caring and trust are shining through all our staff at this time. Life for everyone has changed unbelievably over the past few weeks. We need the support of councillors to let the senior team make decisions very quickly. This will allow us to react to changing circumstances and to deliver our most essential services, to keep our residents as healthy and safe as possible, and to deal with those affected by this dreadful virus with respect and with care. Our staff need to know your support, that they have your support as they go about their tasks. We also need the support of our residents. We cannot deliver the same services as we did just a few weeks ago. We need to prioritise, and that will mean major changes. but we hope that everyone will understand that these are not normal times. The number of local people who have offered to help is truly amazing, and I hope that we can all work in partnership over the next few months. Provost.
Thank you very much for that background, Chief Executive. There is a motion, obviously, to approve the paper in front, so could I pass to the Leader of the Council to formally move the motion?
Thank you, Provost. Today's meeting, as Lorraine has highlighted, has an important purpose in terms of agreeing new measures so that East Renfrewshire Council can take the decisions, often at very short notice, to tackle the challenges of the rapidly changing situation involving the COVID-19 pandemic. We need to ensure this Council continues to provide the key local services while supporting the work of other public bodies such as the NHS and central government. In the coming weeks and months, we may not be able to provide the same levels of service as we normally do, but I can assure everyone that such decisions are only being taken so we can help those most in need. Following national guidelines, our schools have closed to all pupils except those whose parents are key workers. I must urge you to only send your children to school if their place has been confirmed by their head teacher or another senior member of staff. Education staff have been working flat out to make these arrangements work. Please do not phone schools or the Council, as this risks delaying what needs to be done. We will contact you about a place or other aspects of your child's education if needed, and please remember the latest information about the local situation is on our website and our social media channels. Our staff are ensuring food continues to be provided for those children entitled to free school meals, and I thank them for the important work that they continue to do. Staff right across the Council have shown incredible levels of commitment to serve the public in recent weeks, and this administration thanks them all for their efforts, and I'm sure all councillors appreciate the tremendous amount of work that has gone in over the last few weeks to ensure we can continue to provide services. You've just heard from our Chief Executive about how our staff have responded and risen to the challenge whilst facing the same pressures and worries as us all. If our services are reduced so we can deal with this crisis, please bear in mind that our workforce is being involved, is affected and impacted like everyone else, and that we need to prioritise to help those most in need. Our communities team is also working with Voluntary Action East Renfrewshire to set up a special helpline to assist residents and to coordinate offers of help, and there will be more information on this in the next few days. It has been fantastic to see many of the community groups that we all work with coming together to assist their neighbours, to assist those who are going to be impacted either already or in the potentially the very near future, with mechanisms in place to help and support all of those families and all of those residents that may need that at this point in time. It is also more important than ever that all our councillors maintain the excellent relationship which has existed for many years in East Renfrewshire between senior staff and elected members. We are working in this together, and we need to ensure that that message goes out to all our communities. We are doing what we have to do in order to maintain as much as possible their safety. Officers need our support, and by working in partnership, we can ensure the focus is on dealing with the very real challenges which we now face as a council. My sincerest thanks go to all of our staff who have been tremendous to date and will continue, I'm sure, to be vigilant and supportive in all of our communities and all of the tasks that we require them to do. I therefore ask for your support for the recommendations made in this paper. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buchanan. Do you have a seconder for that motion? Councillor O'Kane, do you wish to say anything to it?
Thank you, Provost. I think perhaps just briefly to echo what has been said by the Leader of the Council. This is an unprecedented and grave situation. Today is not a day for politics. Today is not a day even for sometimes the local politics that we get caught up in. Today is about keeping people safe and keeping people alive. Because to be quite honest, this paper, which is unprecedented as well in this council and in councils across Scotland, is about saving lives. We've heard a lot, I think, in the last few days from the leaders of both the UK and Scotland. And whilst I don't share politics of either of them, I stand with them and trust them to be helping to make the right decisions for all of our people. And I think it is important that we do the same, that we trust our officers, our senior officers, to make quick decisions that will have an impact on reducing the spread of this virus and indeed protecting people's lives. Yesterday, the First Minister said that life shouldn't feel normal right now. And if it does feel normal, then you're not doing what you're meant to be doing. So life shouldn't feel normal for us in the Council either. Business as usual is not happening. Business is suspended. All of the things that we get involved in and caught up in our normal day-to-day business are on to one side. The only thing that matters right now is coronavirus and working to ensure that we protect citizens and that we have the resources available, particularly in health and social care, to ensure that we are continuing to deliver service and indeed continuing to protect those who may be self-isolating, but also in education to ensure that we are keeping people safe, that we are providing things for young people to do at home where it's safest for them to be, and we're looking after the most vulnerable where appropriate in school. So that is the severity of the situation, and that is why we have this paper before us today. Vitally important that officers are freed up to make those decisions. Officers have been working non-stop. The conversations I have had with our education team in the last few days and over the weekend, they have all been working flat out to ensure that provisions in place. It is an ever-changing picture right now. Things are changing hour to hour. So that is why we need to have that freedom of decision-making. And of course, built into this is the importance of ensuring that anything that is contrary to a council decision would go to an emergency committee made up of the group leaders, which I think is entirely right as well. So, as I say, I think that is the severity of the situation we're faced today. I would just want to also, on behalf of my group and on behalf, I'm sure, of everyone, is to put on my thanks, record my thanks to all of our staff who are going above and beyond the call of duty and will continue to. I mean, we are not yet, I think, at the worst part of this situation, and we have more to come. So we will continue to give them our support. I certainly will, and I hope that everyone else will as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor O'Kane. Is anybody any otherwise minded, or can we approve this paper? Councillor MacDonald, do you have an amendment against it? Or?
I do have an amendment, and the amendment is very simple. Just having a look over the paper, I feel that there should be a time cap intervals, proposed 30 days, every 30 days that we look at this, that the emergency committee can reconvene somehow to be able to decide whether this is to continue. And also, I would like to see the emergency committee increased from 3 members to 5 members, in which you would have 3 members from the administration side, the leader of the opposition, and 1 member to represent independent councillors that do not sit on the administration. That is the amendment I would like.
Do you have a seconder for that amendment?
I'm happy to second. I'd also like to comment, if that's all right. Right.
The rules of engagement, you have 5 minutes to formally second it if you wish.
Okay. I don't think anybody in their right mind would not acknowledge that these are difficult times and difficult challenges, but I think that this does not mean that we should basically approve anything that comes in front of us. I've not actually heard any discussion of what these proposals actually are, and I think it's important we actually look at it and before just. It's not enough just to tug in the heartstrings and say that it's very difficult times, so we should therefore approve anything that comes in front of us. If you actually look at the detail of what we're being asked to approve today, all committees are being suspended indefinitely, not until Boris or MDL says so, but basically until, as I understand it, until 3 councillors, including Councillor O'Kane, says so. This could continue until May 2022, where you have no licensing, planning or education committees being held whatsoever, and directors take every decision without any checks and balances whatsoever. That's the first thing. The emergency committee, again, will be 3 councillors, and they get to override all council policies and procedures as they see fit. If you look at Part E of the recommendations, these arrangements are to be kept, in inverted commas, under review, in inverted commas, until an appropriate time. It's basically completely open-ended, and it's not down to whether the First Minister or Prime Minister say so, it's down to what these 3 councillors say so. If they so choose, they can continue these arrangements indefinitely up until May 2022, and there's not a thing that councillors can do about it. Councillor O'Kane and two other, if you let me speak, Councillor O'Kane and 2 other councillors will be able to continue these arrangements until May 2022 if they see fit. I would like to actually also ask Councillor Kane, which quick decisions does he think can't be taken without these measures? It's one thing tugging on the heartstrings and saying that we will be unable to take quick decisions. Exactly what is it, Councillor, you're saying that the Council would be unable to do without these measures? Like I say, of course it's challenging times, but this is an indefinite coup d'etat by 3 councillors. And Councillor McKinnon thinks that's funny. He's setting aside all democratic accountability for the next 2 years if they see fit. There's nothing any councillors can do about that. Once this is passed today, all of the councillors have no say apart from 3 councillors. That's it. And indefinitely, and like I say, not until the Prime Minister or First Minister say so, until they so deem that we can go back to normal again. So, I've got very serious concerns. It's open-ended, it's indefinite. There's no saying here, according to these papers, when this arrangement is going to come to an end. It's okay, Councillor Kane says, don't worry about it, just trust us. It might just be a few months. No, I don't. Just trust 3 councillors to decide. This could continue for the next 2 years, and it's not good enough to have no long stop date whatsoever. It's just not good enough. There's got to be something that says 6 months' time, full council sit down together and look at it again. It's not enough just to say it continues indefinitely, and these are very serious concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. I take it that's the amendment formally seconded. Is any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Swift.
Thank you, Provost. I take the view also that these are extraordinary times. Not quite unprecedented, but certainly extraordinary. I also would take a view that people need to be able to respond, and by people I do mean the executive requires to be able to respond rapidly to events. So I have no problem with devolving all authority to the executive. But I do agree with Councillor MacDonald that there needs to be, and Councillor Paul, Councillor Paul, that we do need some kind of a time limit on this, because I agree, an open-ended commitment, which I assume would not be misused. I would like to see something in here. I also think that, the paper specifies that the 3 councillors with whom I am happy having devolved authority over matters in the interim can presumably using Teams, which every laptop and every tablet has on it, can access those meetings through teleconferencing. My only reservation around this is the time and the dissemination of the changes, because there's nothing in the paper about letting us, other councillors, know what's happening, when it happens, what has changed. And I think I would like to know, as a councillor, I'd like to see that disseminated, whether it's just through email. I'd like to have a very good fix on what policies have been broken, why they've been broken, and what's been done. We have to be able to respond, and we need to be nimble to be able to respond, and I accept all of that. But we also need to inform, and that's not in here, and we also need to take everybody else on board. And I do think that in the medium term, it's not unreasonable using technology. And the council has bought the Microsoft applications. So why don't we use technology to have meetings? This is going to be not a short-run event, but a long, drawn-out and pretty unpleasant experience for everybody concerned. Those of us that are still alive, by the way. because the people will die. And I understand the gravity of why we need to be able to move resources around so that we can look after our older people who are self-isolating in particular. So that would be the three things I want. I want to use technology to start meetings again, because they have to start. I would like to see, we are the disaster recovery people that are responsible for this area, so I assume we've got the technology, we can use it, and I would like to see dissemination. And finally, I think what I'd really like to see is a time limit put on this when it is reviewed, which I don't think is an unreasonable thing to ask for, and we can do that through a Teams meeting of all councillors, assuming we're all still here, which I assume we will be, but if we're all doing the right thing.
Councillor Lafferty.
Thank you, Provost. I think what we're proposing today is not something new, strange and novel. And I think most of our neighbouring councils in Ayrshire and other parts of Lanarkshire and Glasgow have set up similar emergency committees in order that decisions can be taken swiftly and for the best result. Although we are vesting authority in a triumvirate of councillors here, which I like Councillor Swift, I'm very happy with the proposed composition and the standing of these members. There is still a role for elected members, I think, in supporting our constituents, and perhaps it might be useful to highlight that on the Council's webpage, remind people of our contact numbers, and take advantage of the email while it's working to raise any points with elected members. I have no difficulty in supporting the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Lafferty. Any other contributions? Councillor.
Okay, just to echo a lot of the things that have already been said about in support of the motion. So I think a lot of councillors come into politics to help change people's lives for the better. And today we have a decision in front of us, not just to change people's lives, to save people's lives. That's what this is about. And to hear the expression pulling on the heartstrings when 13,500 people have died from this disease, when we know what's coming just around the corner and everybody's telling us it, and it's started to happen, I think to use the expression pulling on the heartstrings is terrible.
It doesn't mean we have to agree to
everything. Sorry. I do support the motion, and it's about reacting quickly, fast, and we know that's happening. The advice changes on an hourly basis and sometimes flips back and forward. So we need to be lean and mean and be able to make these decisions. It does talk, obviously, about the temporary extension of the delegated authority. It's kept under review in order that that may be revoked at an appropriate time. If somebody could tell me when the coronavirus will depart this planet, would you put that date down? Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor.
Sorry, President, one more point. It's interesting to hear people talk about how committees are run when some councillors here have chosen in a fit of pique a couple of years ago to absent themselves from all committees and take no part in the day-to-day running of the council. Thank you.
No, you can't. You've had your 5 minutes. I mean, I'm following the standing orders, the rules of debate, so if you've spoken, you've spoken. Councillor Miller, you've not spoken.
Let's not get into historical things. Excuse me.
So can we let Councillor Miller, who's the only councillor who's taken the trouble to come along here today, and understand why the other councillors are not here, probably very sensibly. I wouldn't be here either if I didn't have to be. So can we give Councillor Miller a bit of respect and let him have his say?
Thank you very much, Provost. As somebody that's got COPD, asthma, and I'm an old bugger as well, right in the front line. And I take issue with Councillor Merritt when he says we need to lean and mean. There's no way I can be called lean. I've heard what other people have said, putting a time limit on it, and I understand why. But I would like to know the time limit that coronavirus is going to have on our country. But what Councillor Swift has said, put a time limit on to review, I think would maybe be a good idea.
Also, I spoke to Evan earlier on about substitutes for like the three that are going to be sitting. If we can't manage, that could maybe be agreed, hopefully. As I said, that this paper really is because we're not in a normal situation. Yeah, I heard what Councillor Merrick says, but I've also read in the papers and read in the news that we are 2 weeks behind Italy, who lost 800 people on Saturday alone. You know, we cannot go there. We just cannot go there if we can help it. And if this paper even saves one life, it's going to be worth it. People at the moment are losing their jobs. Even McDonald's are going down the tubes and putting, laying people off. And unfortunately, my local Chinese is going the same way as well. So that maybe help me become lean. But I have actually, with the if we could arrange for substitutes and we can maybe arrange a review of when we look at this again, I'd be happy to support this motion.
Just for some clarity.
Okay.
Just a couple of things maybe for clarity. Our intention would be to circulate the papers that are going to the three leaders to all the councillors. There wouldn't be any reason that couldn't happen, so just for clarity that would happen. And that means people could actually contact them if they had any strong feelings. That we would normally do that, so I wouldn't see why that would change. I think the comment about using Teams more is really important. We have invested in IT, and as it has been one thing for all of us, we've had to use the new functionality, many of our people, and we'll be doing more of that over the next few months, and that will involve councillors as well to get the information to you. I also emailed round all councillors to say that Graham, who's sitting in the gallery at the moment, would be regularly emailing councillors to keep them up to date. And what we would be doing in that is to say as many of the decisions that are taken under delegated authority as we can, the big ones, he will highlight to you so that you know what's happening. We will have to just go ahead and do them. Sometimes we've not had the staff, or something's come in from national government that we have to implement straight away. But Graham will do his best. I would guess quite soon we'll be on to daily briefings from Graham, and I hope that will help. He has the overview of everything that's happening around the council, so we will keep you as best we can up to date in that. So hopefully that covers off some of the points. Maybe the last point is when the recommendations were written, the intention was certainly not that these would be enforced, this paper would be enforced for any longer than absolutely necessary. The intention is once, but we don't know when coronavirus will end. But certainly there was no intention for keeping these in place any longer than absolutely necessary.
Thank you for that clarification. Could I pass to the Leader of the Council to sum up then, if you wish to?
Thank you, Provost, and thank you to the majority of comments that have been made in relation to this paper and for the support. However, I think it is quite clear that I have also heard some absolute nonsense espoused in the last few minutes. The Leader has, Chief Executive has highlighted that we will make the contacts with all councillors. As the three group leaders that are here and that will make up the team, I have no doubt that they will be continuing to speak with their respected elected members and ensuring that the decisions are reached on a democratic basis. I have absolutely no doubt that that will continue to be the case, that IT will be used in order to keep that conversation going and will continue to be so. The fact that we will be putting out memos to all elected members, so everyone will be kept abreast of what is happening. We may well see changes that are even out with our control in terms of what happens nationally, and I suspect that that's likely to happen sooner rather than later in many guises. So there is, without doubt, a clear aspect in all of this to ensure that we can respond to the decisions that are often made quickly and sharply for a variety of reasons by both the parliaments at Holyrood and at Westminster, and we need our officers in place to be able to respond to that. And indeed, as elected members, we need to have that trust in our officers to do that. And we also have the support of the respective parties here to come together, to work together, to ensure that that response is both adequate and prompt. So I have no doubt that what is laid out in this paper will work for the benefit of all of our citizens, because that is what we are here to do. That is what is important. In terms of timescales, we do not know how long it will take this virus to become a virus which we can deal with and treat with as the others that we have learned over the years to do so. But what we know is at the moment it presents a significant risk to life, and that is what we have to deal with. I think it's made quite clear. We do not want the delegated authority to continue over an extended period of time. Indeed, the only person that has mentioned a time cap has been Councillor Aitken, who for some reason thinks it's May 2022. The reality of this is that we need to respond quickly, we need to respond often, immediately, and we will do so. We clearly have and will be keeping it under review, that as things change, we will automatically bring it back. And I'm quite certain that across the respective parties and the members here that will be on the Emergency Committee, that will be a discussion that we will have, and we have no doubt that we will be able to bring back and move back to times as maybe the ones had been, if they are ever quite the same again. But we need to put this paper through. We need to trust our officers, who have done a fantastic job and continue to do so under extreme pressure. And we need to ensure that we are all working together to deliver for our citizens who ultimately elected us all. We need to take the decisions, put in place what works to protect them, because this is a protection issue and it must be tackled as such. Thank you, colleagues, for your support.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buchanan. Can I now go to the vote?
Point of order, Provost.
So there's no point of order. There's been a debate.
Sorry, I didn't get a chance to actually speak.
There isn't a point of order. We've had a debate and I'm now moving to the vote. So all those in favour?
I wasn't invited to speak on my amendment.
Councillor MacDonald is technically correct. He didn't get the opportunity to speak in support of his amendment. And one further thing I would just like to take the opportunity to clarify just now in relation to recommendation B, if I can clarify with Councillor Buchanan, is he happy to accept that in terms of the membership it would also be or substitute? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, Liberal guy, on you go.
Thank you, Provost. I just wanted to sum up by saying that I have a tremendous amount of respect for everybody that's working very hard right now at the Council. There's no question that these are extraordinary times, and everybody that's involved in this effort, whether it's elected members that are working hard within their constituencies, whether it's the Council officers at senior level and staff throughout the Council, I don't take this situation lightly. It's a very dangerous and serious situation that we find ourselves in. There is no question about that. My concerns about this were about going forward and having a situation where we don't have, for an indefinite period of time, a situation where we have elected membership deciding on issues and having democratic representation functional. I understand and appreciate the reasons as to why the proposal is being made. I understand it's about concentrating our efforts, but I also feel that there are alternatives that could have been looked at that would have allowed us to continue as a functioning council, allowing committees and full council to continue in their functioning roles, but also utilising safe distance, safe practices, and the like. I should point out that this morning, when I left to come to the meeting, I left my 8-year-old daughter on our home computer, and she is engaging in a lot of activities online with her friends, Skyping, whatever else. She's a member of a choir group in Pollock, and they meet regularly every week. And in light of what's going on right now, they have decided to take it upon themselves to hold virtual choirs. And I hadn't seen this before, and up popped on the computer screen 30 different faces all ready to sing their choir practice using the application Zoom, which is one of many video conferencing applications that are out there. There are a lot of different ones, Skype, Powwow, numerous ones that could have been utilised. This was set up in the space of 24 hours for a choir of 8-year-olds. It's a non-profit in Pollock, and it's working, functioning. They're all singing, and they're all holding their choir practice. I therefore don't understand why we as a council couldn't have looked at this as an option, an alternative to continue on being able to function as a full council and committees. I realise that opportunity is probably past and it wouldn't probably be approved if I had proposed it here today. But what I would say is, having listened to Councillor Swift's comments earlier, I'm minded to say that I quite like what he's saying, that we should be looking at striking a fine balance about continuing on with this emergency committee, but also where we can and when we can, having committees convene by video conferencing and utilising technology to be able to do that. We don't know how long this is going to go. One final point I wanted to highlight was in support of Councillor Aitken's earlier comments about talking about May 2022. I don't think he was suggesting that there was going to be a purposeful intent for it to go to May 2022. But what I think he suggests is that if we have this indefinite situation, we don't know how long coronavirus is going to last. It may very well last beyond the next election. And the only thing that would bring this situation to an end is a future election, which would bring in a new administration, and we would start all over again from scratch. He wasn't suggesting that it was going to go on indefinitely to 2022 purposefully. All I'm suggesting is that we take the emergency committee to 5 members, include one independent member that is not in the administration within that, and we also have a look at this every 30 days to come back to it, convene as the emergency committee will do, and look at it on a 30-day basis. I don't think that's a lot to ask, and that is my amendment. I would like to amend my amendment to add Jim's suggestions about adding technology.
You have to vote in your first amendment, Councillor MacDonald. I'm sure you realise that. Okay, can I now go to the vote? All those in favour of the motion as proposed by Councillor Buchanan and seconded by Councillor O'Kane, please raise their hand. Okay. All those, well, do we take the amendment or do we take the, sorry, should I take the amendment? Okay. Okay. All those in favour of the amendment, please raise their hand now. One abstention. Okay. Do you wish to announce the result? Thank you very much, Mr Daly. Thank you for your attendance today. That concludes the business. And can I just conclude, as promised, just to say, I'm sure at least on behalf of 15 of the 18 councillors, I know the officers have been run ragged, and can we just say thank you very much for what you've been doing up to now, and wishing everybody well for the future. But it's not gone unnoticed by other elected members. So thank you for all you do.